Hi, my name is Kyle Johnson, and I did my presentation on the New Wave Cinema. How did it start? It started with a group of critics who formed a film magazine called Cahiers du Cinema. They were very critical of the films of the time, so many of them started making their own films. The Cahiers du Cinema considered the new films of the time to be formulaic and unoriginal, and they just really weren't happy with them because they thought they were like everybody else's. They wanted to switch it up. They celebrated certain directors who they considered auteurs, and examples were Alfred Hitchcock and Orson Welles. The Cahiers du Cinema had two main guidelines for making movies, which were mise en scene and the auteur theory. Mise en scene literally means putting on stage. Originally it was a theater term, but it was adapted to film during the French New Wave. Simply, it is the degree of control that the director has over the object, locations, and actors in the scene. The auteur theory was the idea that every film should be, or should have, one person who controls everything in a movie, and also he would leave a style on his movies. The key characteristics of the French New Wave cinema were they had loose story plots, where many of the stories are vague and open-ended, and this gave the viewer the feeling that anything could happen. There were large amounts of improv in the dialogue. The characters are odd and many times act on a whim. A jump cut in the film was when they cut the film from one shot to another. A lot of directors used the jump cuts as an artistic effect that increased the tempo of a part and heightened emotion. And lastly, they didn't use artificial light in the filming. Alright, and then I'm going to show you an example of a video that is going to show you improv and jump cuts and loose plot and no artificial light.
I'm going to go play some football right now, even though I'm really crap, but I don't care. Want to play some ball? Yeah. Alright. This is the game breaker. And I lost. Oh, yeah!
And a drink now, so you're going to have to find out what happens later.
When you're jumping from scene to scene, it's like those are the jump cuts.
I know it'd be a better now.
Like everything in that video was just like winging it pretty much. Alright, so why is it important? The French New Wave cinema is the most influential movement in cinema ever. Some of America's most influential directors were highly influenced by the New Wave cinema. For example, Francis Ford Coppola, who directed The Godfather and Apocalypse Now, Martin Scorsese, who directed The Goodfellas, and Brian De Palma, who directed Scarface. And many directors today are still personally influenced. For example, Quentin Tarantino, who directed Pulp Fiction, and Wes Anderson, who directed Rushmore. Key directors of the New Wave cinema were Francois Truffaut, who is the man pictured there, Jean-Luc Godard, Claude Chabrol, Eric Romer, Agnes Varda, and Louis Malle. All of these directors started out as critics of the Cahiers du Cinema, except for Varda and Malle. The French New Wave's impact, it's otherwise known as La Nouvelle Vague, and it created many other movements in other countries, and many directors emerged using the teachings of the French New Wave. This happened because the films were spread across the globe. In Poland, we find the emergence of Roman Polanski, who later left Poland to direct movies in Hollywood. He directed Chinatown, who starred Jack Nicholson, which was rated in the top 10 best films of all time by the American Film Institute. In Germany in 1962, there was a push to create a new cinema that was based off the French New Wave. There are my references, and thank you for listening.